Gabriel often threatened to break up with me, knowing I liked him. Every time, I would do everything I could to make him stay. The last time he brought it up, I looked at him for a long time, then said okay. It's been 5 years. He finally wore out all the love I had for him. Chapter 1. The day Gabriel broke up with me was actually over something trivial. His childhood friend Sophia was having a birthday, and she had just returned from studying in the US. So Gabriel and a bunch of their childhood friends had arranged to get together to celebrate Sophia's birthday and welcome her back. But that day, Gabriel forgot to tell me about it right before he left. I had already made dinner and spent hours simmering his favorite soup. I asked him to have some soup before leaving. While he was changing his shoes in the entryway, he casually brushed me off. No time. I'm heading out. As he finished putting on his shoes and was about to walk out the door, I stopped him. He turned around. The black marble wall behind him made him look especially tall and handsome. His face looked a bit impatient. I walked over with the bowl of soup, took his wrist, and said, "You woke up late. Your stomach's empty, and you're going to be drinking later. Have some soup first." He let out an irritated tisk and said, "Can you stop being so controlling? It's really annoying." As he said that, he flung his hand. I knew he probably didn't mean to do it, but I was running a fever and didn't have much strength in my hands. So when he flung his hand, the bowl of soup I was holding crashed to the marble floor, soup and porcelain shards flying everywhere. The air fell silent for a moment. I paused, my gaze shifting from the mess on the floor to his face. I tried to stay calm, even smiled a little, and asked him, "Are you this irritable and eager today because Sophia's back? I heard she's single again." Before Gabriel and I got together, he chased Sophia openly and secretly for a long time. After Sophia got a boyfriend, he was heartbroken and ended up with me. It's been 5 years now. That line hit a nerve. All these years, Sophia had remained the most special person in his heart. Just mentioning her name felt like desecration. Sure enough, he exploded instantly. His handsome face twisted with impatience. His brows furrowed tightly, and he said angrily, "Diana, what are you implying? You think I'm cheating? Can you stop being so paranoid every time something happens? It's so exhausting. If you've got a problem, then let's just break up." He said let's break up all the time. It had basically become his catchphrase. To him, breaking up wasn't an event. It was just another way of saying he was annoyed. Every time he said it, I would beg him to stay. But this time, after he said it, I looked at him seriously for a long time. Then I let out a soft laugh and said, "Sure, Gabriel." His expression showed a flicker of surprise, but he ignored me and turned to leave. He was in a hurry. He couldn't be late to Sophia's birthday party. Chapter 2. Packing up all my things didn't take long. Gabriel never really liked me invading his space, so there weren't many of my belongings at his place. After cleaning up the mess in the living room, I glanced at the leftover soup and put it in the fridge. That was probably the last soup I'd ever make for Gabriel. Once everything was tidied up, I opened WeChat. I had intended to say a proper goodbye, after all. We'd been together for 5 years. But then someone in our mutual friend group sent a video. It was from a private karaoke room. The neon lights were dazzling and lively. Gabriel was singing "Marry Me Today" with a girl I hadn't seen in a long time but knew very well. It was Sophia. After I started dating Gabriel, I'd overheard one of his friends complain that he and Sophia always sang that song whenever they went to karaoke. Not that it had any special meaning, but when Sophia was little, she used to chase Gabriel around saying she'd marry him when she grew up. So the song had become an inside joke among their friends. I watched the video to the end, then closed the WeChat chat window. I figured Gabriel probably didn't need my goodbye. Dragging my suitcase, I took one last look at the clean, empty living room. The mess that had sparked our argument had been cleaned up, as if it had never happened. I sighed and found myself feeling grateful for Sophia's return. It was thanks to her birthday party that Gabriel was gone for a few hours, giving me the quiet I needed to clear out my things from his home. I thought I'd feel a little sad. 5 years. After all, but maybe I was just too tired. When I got home, I actually slept peacefully. Gabriel called around 2 in the morning. He must have been pretty drunk. When he drinks, his voice gets a little louder than usual. He asked me, "Diana, why didn't you come pick me up?" I was still half asleep and replied groggily, "I'm sleeping." Whatever it is, Let's talk tomorrow. As soon as I finished speaking, he hung up with a beep. I'm a light sleeper. After that call, I couldn't fall back asleep. I was surprised he called me tonight. After reuniting with his little childhood sweetheart, I thought he'd be busy playing the gentleman and making sure Sophia got home safely. I didn't expect him to call and question why I hadn't picked him up. Then again, maybe it was just another one of his dumb bets with his friends. Chapter 3. When I had just started dating Gabriel, he once went to a bar with some friends. It was raining that night, and I didn't want to interrupt their fun, so I waited for him at the bookstore across the street. I didn't feel safe letting him come home drunk alone. As soon as he came out, I spotted him, walked over with an umbrella, and smiled at him, saying, "Gabriel, let's go home." I've always thought us and go home are two of the warmest phrases. His friends all started teasing him then, saying, "Oh man, Gabriel, how did you even manage to snag such a devoted and gentle girlfriend like Diana?" He didn't have to snag me, I chased after him, but no matter how others envied him, he was kind of annoyed at the time. Maybe it was because I treated him too well. So well that there was no challenge, no edge. People have a twisted nature at their core. Back then he even asked me, "Diana, don't you have a life of your own?" I was actually really busy with work. I had just been invited to host my own solo art exhibition. Outside of creating, I devoted nearly all my time and energy to him. I remember smiling at him and saying, "You're my life, too." At the time, I thought that was my quiet confession of love, stretched across the years. Thinking back now, I probably just annoyed him. There was another time I was sketching outside the bar, waiting for him so we could go home together. When he came out and saw me, he smiled, unsurprised, and then his friends each handed him $100, saying, "You won the bet again." Gabriel had bet them I'd definitely come to pick him up. He probably lost that bet tonight, which is why he angrily called me. I got out of bed to pour a glass of water. Just as I returned to the bedroom, Gabriel called again, several missed calls. When I picked up, I was a little surprised and asked, "What is it?" There was a pause on the other end. His voice was hard to read as he asked, "Diana, I'm back. Where's your stuff?" So he actually noticed I'd cleared out my things from his place. I thought it'd at least take him a while. I held back my frustration and gently reminded him, "Gabriel, did you forget? We broke up. You said it yourself 7 hours ago." I agreed. He stayed silent on the line. Just when I thought the call had disconnected, he suddenly snapped, "Fine, but don't come begging me to get back together." Chapter 4. Gabriel doesn't understand that I'm not going back to him. It's strange. During the 5 years I was with him, I never felt disappointed or tired of the relationship, nor did I ever intend to leave him. But now that I've left, going with the flow, I don't feel sad either. Carolina said that my love for Gabriel was like the money he had in the bank. She was sitting on the couch with her legs crossed, eating chips with a wise expression, and said, "Diana, your love for Gabriel is like the money in his bank account. He's been spending and spending without making any deposits, so now the account is overdrawn." A pretty interesting metaphor. I think my love for Gabriel has also reached that point of deficit. Carolina asked what I planned to do now. I shrugged and replied, "Work." My solo exhibition already had the venue and funding confirmed. I needed about a year to travel through several countries and, with my brush, capture the most beautiful landscapes I encountered. The first stop was the Rio Tinto in Spain. Since its source contains pyrite and copper, the whole riverbed is the color of red wine. I want to try using the river water as pigment for my creations. Just thinking about it excited me. Before I left, Carolina still said, "Seeing you like this puts me at ease. I thought you'd be upset seeing Gabriel's posts." I had already seen them. Gabriel was never one to post much on social media. In our 5 years together, he may have only posted a few stories. But these days, his profile looked like a New Year's party. Photos with Sophia at various tourist spots in City A. Pictures of them eating all kinds of food together. I can understand that he felt happy about Sophia's return, but the frequency of his posts was so high that it almost made me suspect he was doing it on purpose. Like he wanted me to see. Like he wanted me to get jealous. But as soon as that thought came up, I dismissed it immediately. I scrolled up and ignored it with a smile. Carolina looked at me admiringly and said, "You're amazing. You've taken to the extreme what it means to love deeply and let go coldly. Loyalty is the greatest sign of respect I can give to a relationship. Coldness, on the other hand, is how I respect myself." Sitting in the taxi on the way back, I looked at Gabriel's posts again. This time he was at the zoo with Sophia. He had posted a selfie with an alpaca. I exited the profile and, after thinking for a bit, changed my profile picture. My old photo was one Gabriel had taken. It was on our first anniversary. During a trip, I was eating ice cream and had accidentally appeared in one of his landscape photos. Gabriel frowned at it, about to delete it, but I loved it, so I used it as my avatar for 5 years. Now I changed it to a photo of my newly adopted cat. Chapter 5. I received Gabriel's message on WhatsApp just before boarding the plane. It was the 14th day since we broke up and cut off all contact. He sent a question mark, and then asked, "You changed your profile picture?" A simple sentence. Although I couldn't see his expression, I could imagine him frowning in displeasure as he stared at his phone. I thought for a moment, turned off my phone, and didn't reply. Then I boarded the plane to Spain. I spent a very pleasant month at Spain's wine river. I turned off my phone, set aside social media and trivial matters, and focused entirely on my art. I met a very interesting person. His name is Leo. I met him when his pants were rolled up and he was collecting mud from the river, which is the raw material for my painting. Suddenly, he wrapped his arms around my waist from behind and lifted me up. I thought it was an attacker, although I was startled for a moment. I reacted quickly and slapped the mud in my hand straight onto his face. His face was covered in red mud. He couldn't open his eyes, but he still held on tightly. Then he opened his mouth and said in English, "It will all be over soon. You have a long lifetime." He was trying to convince me not to kill myself. He thought I had gone into the river to end my life. I stopped struggling. My nerves relaxed, and I found it a bit funny. I patted the hands around my waist and told him I was just collecting mud. That was how we met, literally by crashing into each other. Since he couldn't see the path with all the mud I'd thrown in his face, I guided him to a nearby clean water source so he could wash up. Once he cleaned himself, I found that he had a very handsome face, and he turned out to be Chinese as well. Meeting a fellow countryman in a foreign land is always a pleasant surprise. When everything was settled, I apologized with a bit of guilt, but he was very easygoing, not upset at all. His smile was bright and charismatic. A cheerful gentleman. He gave me a thumbs up and praised my strong sense of self-protection and quick reflexes. As he told me, he had been vacationing on the southern beaches of Spain, and while passing the A461 road in the province of Huelva, he saw me in the river. He thought I was trying to end my life, and with the idea that saving a life is more meritorious than building a 7-story pagoda, he ran to hug me. He nearly went blind for his good deed. When he heard about my artistic concept, he was very interested. He's a very curious person. In the end, he changed his itinerary on the spot because he wanted to see whether the pigment I prepared by mixing water and mud from the wine river could faithfully reproduce the local landscape. I naturally agreed to his request. He's a very proper person with a strong sense of boundaries, knows how to maintain appropriate social distance without being intrusive, so we got along very comfortably. For instance, he never interrupted me when I was immersed in my work. Sometimes I would flip day and night, forgetting to sleep or eat. He would ask the hotel staff to leave food outside my room, with 3 soft knocks on the door, and nothing more. Chapter 6. When I finally came out of my room, more than half a month had passed. The hotel owner's daughter was flirting with Leo. Seems the locals all liked him. He gracefully declined and then looked over at me, giving me a once-over before saying with a slight smile, "When your painting is exhibited, no one will guess what the artist behind it has been through." I laughed too. I was covered in paint and mud, looking like I had just been pulled out of the ground, but I had just completed a piece I was proud of, so I didn't mind Leo's teasing. I looked up at him with a smile, excitedly saying, "Weren't you curious? Now's your chance to satisfy that curiosity." He looked at me, seemingly stunned for a moment. Then I led him to my studio. A 2-meter-long scroll perfectly reproduced the scenery along the wine river, every detail vivid. The amazement and awe in his eyes the moment he stepped in fully satisfied me. He admired it for a long while, then turned to me and said sincerely, "It's my honor to be the first to see this painting." After that, I treated him to a meal to thank him for his silent care over the days. 3 days later, we parted ways. We're both free-spirited types, didn't even bother exchanging contact info. To us, the other was simply an unexpected delight in the journey, an unexpected figure in an otherwise planned trip. After his curiosity was satisfied, he went on with his original travel plans, while I planned to stay a few more days before heading home. What I didn't expect was to run into him again on the flight back. I was lucky, got upgraded to first class by the flight attendant. When I entered, I thought I'd mistaken someone else for him, since he'd said he'd stay another 2 weeks. But Leo looked up and seemed momentarily surprised too. Then he shrugged with a helpless look and said, "The company back home revolted, I have to go back and take charge." I couldn't help but smile. We landed in Q City at 2 in the morning. Leo's driver was waiting outside the airport. "Ever the gentleman?" he asked. "If it's not too forward, may I drop you off first?" I thought for a moment, then thanked him without fuss and accepted. When the car stopped in front of my building, I got out and thanked Leo. Since I had a lot of luggage, he chivalrously got out too and asked if I needed help getting it to the elevator. Just as I was hesitating, someone suddenly called my name from the shadows beside the flower bed in the greenbelt. "Diana." Chapter 7. It was Gabriel. His tone gave nothing away. I turned my head. He was half shrouded in shadow, slowly stepping into the light. In just over a month, he had noticeably lost weight. His gaze shifted from Leo to my face. Then he let out a cold laugh and said, "So this is why you broke up with me. Turns out you were too timing." I struggled to stay calm, first thanking and saying goodbye to Leo. We were nothing more than brief acquaintances, and I was already grateful for his quiet care. He was considerate, glanced at Gabriel and asked if I needed help. When I shook my head, he courteously left, giving me space to deal with the situation. Gabriel stared at me with a look that was both ferocious and pitiful, like a stray cat about to be abandoned. Pretending to be fierce to hide his panic, he asked, "You broke up with me because you fell for someone else?" I didn't know why, but I suddenly felt tired. Maybe it was the backlash of years spent accommodating his emotions. He was always polite and distant with everyone else, but with me, he was perpetually condescending, always acting like it was his right. I was truly fed up, but I still tried to keep my composure and patiently explained, "Gabriel, you were the one who broke up with me. Leo and I were just strangers who crossed paths in Spain. You can't keep doing this." I paused, unable to find the right words. Maybe my tone surprised Gabriel, because he froze for a moment. A flicker of hurt quickly passed through his eyes. Then, after a long silence, he spoke again, his voice suddenly soft, so soft it startled me. "In the 5 years we were together, this might have been the first time he ever showed vulnerability." He said, "Carolina told me you were coming back tonight. I've been waiting since 6. Diana, you didn't reply to my WhatsApp." He paused, then asked, "In this past month we've been apart, did you think about me at all?" I hadn't expected him to ask that. I was caught off guard, but as I looked back on the past month, all I could recall was the fulfillment I found in my creative work. Not once, not even once, did I think of Gabriel. I could only stay silent. Under the streetlight, he stared at me intently, as if trying to see straight into my heart. After a while, he suddenly laughed bitterly, then muttered, almost to himself, "I don't believe it." Chapter 8. Gabriel had the kind of confidence that refuses to believe. I had liked him for a very, very long time. So long that now, I can't even remember what it was that made me fall for him in the first place. It was like all my feelings for him had been worn away by time. All that remained, the accommodating and the caring, was just the inertia of having loved him for so many years. I knew he had always liked his childhood friend Sophia. He only gave up on her the night she left the country with a professor from our school. I don't know if all young love is this reckless and brave. That night, he chased her to the airport alone, then watched as the professor held Sophia's hand. The two of them chatted and laughed as they walked through the gate. He sat there in the airport until night fell, the neon lights dazzling and brilliant, illuminating his sorrow so brightly it had nowhere to hide. Only after a long time did he finally get up and leave the airport. Back then, I had followed him out of worry, trailing quietly behind. He vented all his anger and grief on me. "You following me for a laugh? Get lost," he snapped. I stood about 50 meters behind him and quietly said, "I'm just worried about you." That night, he walked all the way back to the dorms from the airport, over 10 kilometers. It took him the entire night. That was probably his lowest moment. And I followed behind him in silence the whole way. When he got to the dorm building at dawn, for some reason, he turned and asked me, "Do you really like me? Then let's be together." I froze for a moment, then smiled. We had been together since that day. It's been 5 years. Carolina used to call me a simp, but I was really just following my heart. Life's too short. I only wanted to do what felt right. When Gabriel asked if I wanted to be with him, I asked myself 4 questions in those brief seconds of hesitation. Do you know Gabriel likes someone else? Yes. Do you know Gabriel doesn't like you? Yes. Will you regret it if you turn him down? Yes. Do you want to have him? Yes. The answers were simple. It's like they say, forced fruit isn't sweet. But how do you know it's not sweet unless you taste it? I was calm and clear-headed. I knew exactly what I was doing. I knew it when I got together with him 5 years ago. And I know it now as we part. I got what I wanted, compared to those who never even got to be with the one they loved. I don't know if I'm lucky or unlucky, but I'm glad. I can pick it up. And I can let it go. I've let go of Gabriel. Chapter 9. Gabriel was still standing in front of me, his tall figure completely blocking out the streetlight. He bent down and looked at me, as if he was determined to find the sorrow I was pretending to be strong about on my face. I don't know why, but I suddenly asked, "Gabriel, do you remember the first time you broke up with me?" He probably didn't expect me to ask that, so he was stunned for a moment. The first time he broke up with me was around 3 months after we got together. He did it over WhatsApp, then forgot about it and went on a 7-day trip to Tibet with his friends. The day he came back, I waited for him downstairs at his dorm. It was raining that day. My hair and clothes were soaked, and I had a fever. He was shocked when he saw me and asked, "What are you doing here?" I was actually pretty heartbroken then, but I still smiled at him. Maybe he softened a little, and with his heart broken over Sophia too. It didn't matter who he was with. So we got back together. I asked him, "Gabriel, during those few days you were in Tibet after our first breakup, was there any moment when you thought of me?" I sighed and said, "Back then, I was in the same state you are now." His face grew darker with my words. In the end, he took a few steps back and turned to leave. From his perspective, the fact that he stooped to come find me tonight was already him giving me enough of an out and saving my dignity. And yet I still embarrassed him. How ungrateful. Of course he was angry. Carolina was surprised when she found out Gabriel came to see me. She asked, "Could it be that Gabriel realized he's deeply in love with you after losing you?" I just smiled without saying anything. Rather than saying he fell in love with me, it's more accurate to say it's his possessiveness acting up. The once submissive simp girlfriend who always revolved around him packed up and vanished completely after the breakup. No WhatsApp messages. No attempts to reconcile. None of the usual check-ins and meticulous care. Like a pet dog that always wagged its tail around you. And one day, when you come home, it suddenly ignores you. You'd naturally wave a meaty bone in front of it, curious to see how it reacts. To Gabriel, I was that pet dog. He came to find me simply because my behavior after the breakup caught him off guard. So he dangled a meaty bone in front of me to test whether I was still within his control. If I had shown even the slightest bit of nostalgia or affection, I believe he would have lost interest immediately and walked away. Carolina said I was overthinking it. I didn't respond. Chapter 10. Gabriel started appearing in my world more and more. Funny thing is, after we broke up, he reached out to me more often than he did during the entire year we were together. It started with a stuffed bear I forgot to take from his place. It was the first birthday gift Gabriel gave me. Because I liked hugging him while sleeping, it was an unconscious habit. So he gave me the bear to hug at night. On the phone, he asked, "Are you coming to get it? Or should I bring it to you?" I paused and said, "No need. Just throw it away." Gabriel was silent on the other end for a long time. Right before he hung up, I added, "If you find anything else I left behind, just deal with it yourself. No need to contact me." He didn't say anything. That night, Gabriel called me again. I didn't pick up the first time. The phone kept ringing persistently. I sighed and finally answered. He was drunk, which surprised me a little. He'd always been someone who knew his limits. And he never got drunk before. Slurring his words, He said, "You still have something at my place." I patiently replied, "I don't want it. Please just throw it away." And I paused. "Gabriel, stop calling me in the middle of the night. I won't answer anymore." He acted like he didn't hear me and said, "The necklace. That star-designed necklace you liked. I bought it. You forgot to take it." It was the gift I had mentioned for our 5-year anniversary. I told him about it 2 weeks in advance. The necklace's design was inspired by the designer's 5-year relationship with her boyfriend, which made it meaningful. Gabriel had nodded at the time, but when the day came, he forgot not just the necklace but our anniversary altogether. Just 3 days later, Sophia came back from the US. He was completely focused on celebrating his childhood sweetheart's birthday, preparing a gift and a welcome back party for her. Then we broke up. See, the reason I stopped loving him was simply the accumulation of countless moments like that. My voice turned cold. I said, "It's already too late." "Gabriel." There was a commotion on the other end. Someone else picked up the phone. It was one of his friends. He apologized with a helpless tone. "Diana. Sorry." "Gabriel's drunk." He hesitated before asking. "He seems really upset. Is there really no chance you two will get back together?" I hung up. After the call, I opened my eyes and stared at the ceiling. To say I felt nothing at all would be a lie. After all, I had truly loved him. I was just sighing over how extreme the shift in his behavior had been. I couldn't reconcile the cold Gabriel from before with the one he was now. His gentleness and care were forever out of sync with me. Chapter 11. After that phone call incident, Gabriel disappeared for a long time. The next time I saw him was 3 months later. We had broken up in early summer, and in the blink of an eye, it was already late autumn. The weather had turned bleak and chilly. He was wearing a long black trench coat. Even though we had broken up, I had to admit, his looks were indeed striking. He was leaning against the gate of my apartment complex, smoking. Back when Sophia and her professor had just left the country for further studies, that was when he smoked the most, chain smoking, drinking, sleepless nights, until he ended up in the hospital. After being discharged, he started controlling himself subconsciously. I didn't know why he had picked up the habit again. He heard footsteps and looked up at me, eyes tired. He said, "Sorry, I know I'm bothering you, but my mom is coming to City A this weekend, and I haven't told her about the breakup yet." Strangely enough, even though Gabriel never really liked me when we were together, his mother adored me. The first time we met, she took off her jade bracelet and gave it to me. After we broke up, I placed the bracelet on Gabriel's nightstand. His mom had a heart condition. I hesitated, and his expression softened with a hint of pleading. "Just 2 days. I'll explain things to her slowly afterward." I hesitantly nodded. When he saw me nod, he visibly relaxed, then took 2 steps back, actually showing respect, and said, "Thank you." Before leaving, he handed me a bag. "It's getting colder. Take care of your throat." It was an old issue of mine. My throat often got inflamed during the seasonal transition from autumn to winter. Every year, Gabriel would ask friends in Australia to send me a specific supplement that helped prevent it if taken early. I didn't expect him to still remember. Holding the bag and watching him walk away, I felt something subtle, a complicated mix of emotions. Chapter 12. Gabriel's mother stayed for just 2 days. To keep up appearances, I moved some of my belongings into Gabriel's place. After she left, I packed everything back up. Gabriel followed me in silence. As I pushed my suitcase toward the stairs, he suddenly grabbed my hand. He was tall, with deep-set features. When his face was expressionless, he looked distant. He kept his head down, so I couldn't read his expression. Then he asked, "Can't you stay?" After a pause, he looked up at me and explained with restraint, "There's really nothing between Sophia and me." I admit, when she came back, I did feel something, but it was just a natural reaction to someone I used to like. I never thought about getting back together with her. There was a faint choke in his voice. He paused before continuing, "It was a mistake to break up with you. It won't happen again. Diana, give me another chance, please?" I'd never seen him like this. Flustered, I turned to leave. Maybe it was because my mind was elsewhere. In that moment of turning, I missed a step and fell down the stairs. I fractured my lower leg. Gabriel stayed with me the entire time in the hospital, helped arrange the admission, took care of me. After the surgery, When I woke up, he was sleeping beside my hospital bed. Hospital space was tight, 4 beds to a room. His tall frame was crammed between 2 patient beds. Unable to stretch out properly, he looked a bit pitiful, even in sleep, his brow tightly furrowed, clearly restless. One of his hands rested over mine in his sleep, maybe in case I moved during the night and needed him. I thought about it but didn't pull my hand away. The anesthesia in my leg was slowly wearing off, and the creeping pain kept me awake. I stared at the ceiling and thought back to long ago. Back then, I had just graduated. Hailed as a top art student, an investor from an art gallery invited me to dinner. I was young and naive, thinking he genuinely appreciated my talent. It wasn't until he poured me the 3rd glass of wine and placed a hand on my shoulder that I realized something was wrong. I hid in the restroom and called Gabriel. After hearing my story, he told me to stay inside and not come out. He came directly to the scene and smashed a wine bottle over the investor's head. That investor didn't even know Gabriel was my boyfriend. He had coerced or exploited too many young women, and just assumed it was one of their boyfriends seeking revenge. Gabriel had told me to stay hidden, to minimize the investor's influence over my future in the industry. Only later did I learn he had been in the middle of an interview with his dream company. He had already passed the first 3 rounds and had a final interview with the director when he got my call. And still, he came. Gabriel never once used that moment to guilt me or claim credit. Never said I cost him that offer. I don't know why, but in that sudden moment, I remembered all the good he'd done for me. Even in our barren patch of love, there had been beautiful moments like that. Honestly, I was wavering. Chapter 13. He stayed with me at the hospital until I was discharged. I had told him it wasn't necessary. Carolina would be there to keep me company. I actually wanted to cut things off cleanly, but he insisted on taking some responsibility, believing my fall down the stairs had something to do with him. When Carolina heard that Gabriel was there, she said we might have a chance of getting back together and, stirring things up, declared she wouldn't come to the hospital anymore. The elderly lady in the bed next to mine smiled as she looked at us and asked, "Young lady, your boyfriend is really responsible. There aren't many good men like him these days." I smiled. When I looked up, I saw Gabriel standing at the end of the bed, staring at me a bit nervously. After a while, he suddenly smiled. The smile spread from the corners of his eyes to his lips. It wasn't until we were in his car after being discharged that he turned to look at me and said, "I'm really happy, Diana. When that granny called me your boyfriend just now, you didn't deny it." I opened my mouth to speak. The truth was, I just didn't think it was necessary. He had stayed with me for so long, and explaining to a stranger that he wasn't my boyfriend would have only led to more questions. We were about to leave anyway. I just wanted less trouble, not more. But seeing the smile on his face, I sighed and stayed silent. Gabriel still wanted to keep going, and if it were the Gabriel of now, I actually might be willing to give it a try. Could the love lost in the dust of time ever return? That thought stayed with me until Gabriel brought me to his place. I had fallen so suddenly that day that all my belongings were still at his place. His mom had brought me some dried fish I loved the last time she visited. So after leaving the hospital, we went to his house to get my things. But when the door opened, I saw Sophia. She was wearing an apron, holding a spatula in one hand, looking every bit like the lady of the house. She smiled warmly and said, "Aw, Gabriel, you're back. You said you were bringing Diana home from the hospital, so I figured you wouldn't have time to eat. Come on in." She waved us in. On her wrist was the jade bracelet Gabriel's mother had given me, the one I left on Gabriel's nightstand after our breakup. My gaze moved from the bracelet to Gabriel's face. Then, standing in the doorway, I suddenly laughed. A calm, detached laugh of letting go. In that moment, I knew Gabriel and I were over for good in this lifetime. Whether it was 5 years ago or 5 years later, whenever we stood together, the one who never quite fit was always me. But it didn't matter anymore. I no longer minded. I stood at the door, politely distant, and declined. "No need. I'm in a hurry to get home. I won't bother you too." Then I turned to Gabriel and said, "I won't go in. Please bring my things out." "Thank you." His face turned a little pale. He looked at Sophia, then at me, and before going in to get my luggage, he said, "I'll explain everything later." I didn't reply. After he went inside, Sophia's smile slowly faded. She stared at me like I was an intruder, her smile venomous like a snake. You're not going to make me lose the bet, are you? I raised an eyebrow, confused. She smiled and explained. The day I came back to the country, they said you and Gabriel had broken up. Gabriel and his friends all bet you'd be groveling to come back within 3 months. Later, the bet was extended to 6 months. Gabriel and all his friends bet you'd come back. Only I bet you wouldn't. She asked me, enunciating each word, you're not going to make me lose, are you? I looked at her without responding and calmly said, whether you lose the bet or not, I don't know. I only know that Gabriel's friends probably won. When your professor dumped you in the US and you had no choice but to return, his friends were already betting on whether you'd come back like a pretentious coquette and have Gabriel pick up the pieces. I started laughing, looking at her pale face. And now, it seems, they all won. Just then, Gabriel came out pushing my suitcase. I took it from him and smiled. Thank you. No need to see me off. Carolina's coming to pick me up. I won't bother you any longer. At the very end, I looked at Gabriel, smiled with finality, and said, Gabriel, if you want me to hold on to any good memory of you, I beg you, don't contact me again. That was the last thing I ever said to him, and the last time I saw him. It was also the last good deed he ever did for me. Chapter 14. 2 years later, I saw Leo at an art exhibition. He was standing in front of my painting Red River Wine. I walked up beside him and looked at it with him. After 2 years apart, there was no need for polite greetings between us, like old friends who had known each other for years. He tilted his head, smiled at me, and said, I saw the news about your exhibition, so I came. Just as excellent as I imagined. He paused, then asked with a smile, after the exhibition ends, may I invite the artist to dinner? I smiled back and said, of course. Time flows, the seasons change, the sun sets and the moon rises, spring passes and summer, autumn, and winter follow. Life is long, full of countless sights that you must experience and understand on your own. As for what the future holds, only by taking action will you find the answer.